Ericka. Thank you so much, Diana, for a warm introduction. I have been a financial coach for 18 years, and I've met with a lot of people and learned so much from my clients. Now I'm moving into the financial wellness space and working inside of organizations and companies, making certain that everybody can have some type of personal financial responsibility and freedom themselves. But I think that the biggest thing that I have learned in the work that I have done is that money is funny. Money is very funny. It makes us uncomfortable, and it makes us do weird things. In addition to that, people do not teach us what I consider to be the language of money. We need to know how to talk about money. How many of you went to school, grade school, high school, college, and no one ever talked to you about money? How to actually have a real conversation? Yeah, very common. And we have to figure this out on our own. And thankfully, there's a lot of creators out there. There's coaches, there's people who are bloggers and podcasters now, today, who can help you in that conversation. But what I have found is that couples have a really hard time figuring out one another's language. And it's specific to each of us because we have different past experiences, different upbringings, and different ways that we relate to money ourselves. And so we argue. So don't look at the person next to you if you came with your partner. But it's okay if you raise your hand and say, we just had an argument this week. Super common. And if we're being honest, I'll bet you it's more than 50% of us who have actually had an argument. And so we need to figure out how to have healthy, productive conversations around money. Arguing comes because we are upset about how someone spends. We're pointing the finger. We're mad about the debt that we have. We don't know how to actually talk about money in a healthy way. There's lots of reasons, tons of reasons why we argue. And none of it is going to help you get to 5. So we need to figure out how to work this out, right? Unfortunately, even after the argument, we don't actually have resolution. Sadly, so many people who fuss and they fight and they raise their voice don't find resolution after it's over. And there's a lot of reasons for this too. The first one is we hit below the belt. And I just this week saw the movie Creed. And anytime I'm watching a boxing movie, I cringe at the scenes where they're actually in the ring, okay? And I am not a man, I don't have man parts, but I can just imagine that junk hurts, right? Are you cringing too? So hitting below the belt is painful. It hurts. And we don't even know we're doing that to our spouse, our loved one, our boo, the person that we, kind of want to spend the rest of our lives with, right? Potentially. And we hit below the belt. We bring up their past mistakes. We look at them and we have this intention of the right words, and our impact is harmful. I have to admit, a couple of weeks ago, my husband said, your impact was not what you just said. Like, that hurt. And I was like, what? Come on now. We've been married a long time, and I still have missteps with intention versus impact. And while that may not be something that derails our relationship, but it can be the thing that is very uncomfortable and annoying, of course, in an argument, and why you might not be able to resolve that particular issue. There's tons of reasons. We don't have to go through them all, but there's tons of reasons for unresolved conversations around money. And so I think there's another way. I think that there's something that we can really consider when it comes to how we talk about money and learning the language of those who are closest to you when you're having these conversations. So everyone wants to get on the same page. Even as Diana mentioned, like everybody's trying to get their spouse on board, their partner on board. But what if that isn't the answer? I have been a financial coach for nearly 2 decades. And if I had $1 for every time someone asked me how to get their spouse on board, how to make sure that they were on the same page, man, I'd have financial freedom for all of y'all, okay? But the truth of the matter is that might not be what you need to look for. I have taught my clients, and now I teach employees and workplaces, that you might need to just seek commonality. It's super easy to figure out where you disagree. That's easy. The negative part shows up all the time. Pointing fingers is easy. But where do you have commonality? Where are you in alignment? What do you actually think you can do together as a team? How do we do this? My husband says this all the time. Same team, we're on the same team, and that reminder is really important because we're trying to get somewhere together. And I think a lot of times, people are looking to get on the same page, but they're not even in the same book. Let's just start there. So let's talk about this a little bit more. If it's not the answer, where are you today? There's 3 places that you might actually be. Could you be going in circles? Have you guys ever seen a dog chasing his tail? It's silly, right? Like, where are you going? Nowhere. You're going nowhere fast. And a lot of times when we are circling an idea or a conversation or a point or a disagreement or a decision that has to be made over and over again to exhaustion, typically what's happening is someone doesn't feel heard. They're bringing it back up because someone doesn't feel heard. And my one little tip here, if you're in this space, is to make sure that you repeat, paraphrase, or give them their words back and say, did I hear you correctly? This applies to money, but it also applies to other things that you could be communicating about. In the FI community, it's very easy to speed on past your partner too. And just say, forget all that, I'm getting the FI, I don't know if you coming with me, but I'm gonna be there. This is my FI number, you know? And so we might leave them in the dust. And the challenge with doing that, of course, is that they're not with you. Again, you're not in the same book. That's not what we want. We want alignment. We want a commonality. We want to make certain that we can get there together. We're a team. I see you in my future. Let's go. And maybe you're on pause. You could be stuck. You're like, I have all this information, but goodness, we cannot get this thing together. So we just abandoned any action. Again, unhelpful. Because frankly, pursuing your own financial independence is important. No one else is gonna help you get there. You gotta do this as a team. In my book, Naked and Unashamed, 10 money conversations every couple must have, one of the things that I talk about in there is that you need to be a team couple. You're on the same team, and sometimes you need to ensure that you're playing offense at the same time and defense at the same time. And if you're opposing one another, obviously, we're not on the same team, right? So we need to figure out how to do that. So some years back, my daughter and I were in Costco. I'm a super big Costco fan. Do we have any Costco fans in here? Yes. Bulk on savings, right? We were there on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and I'm telling you, it's a circus. Babies are crying. It is a million people in the aisles, and money is flying out of people's pockets in $100 bills, right? You can't get out of there without giving them $100, right? Or 2 or 3. And in this busy aisle, I heard my precious 12-year-old daughter say, Mom, can I get naked? It's okay, y'all can laugh. And I'm looking like, what we're not gonna do is get naked in the middle of this crowded aisle in Costco, okay? But I turn around and I look at this kid and I'm like, what is she doing? And in my head, I'm thinking, my husband and I are responsible parents, okay? We have 2 girls, and our main job is to keep them off the stripper pole. And today, after Barbara's presentation, I'm like, well, maybe it's not such a bad idea. I don't know. you know. But I looked at her and I said, what are you talking about? And she is in the refrigerated section and she's looking at the naked drinks. It's free of sugar. It's supposed to be healthy for your body. Nothing in it that's harmful. So it's free. Getting naked means getting free. And sometimes in our money conversations, in how we deal with our partner, understanding their money language, we need to get free, y'all. We need to get free. My daughter had no problem saying that word, but that word might make you a little bit uncomfortable. But I say that word a lot. I put it on the cover of my book, so clearly, I don't have no problem with that. But getting naked is uncomfortable. We've got wrinkles. We got bags, we got lumps, we got cellulite. Is it just me? Am I just talking about myself here? I don't know here. I don't know. But we are faster to get into the bed with someone. Let's just be honest. We get into the bed with people before we talk about money. We share this piece of ourselves before we talk about salaries, before we talk about a budget, before we talk about how excited we are about our fire journey, right? Before we talk about, do they tip? Simple, little, tiny conversations that are not had before we share our own imperfections, right? We need to make the conversation around money easy. We need to do it regularly, and we need to get naked. So I just want to give you a couple of ways to get naked financially speaking. We're not taking off any clothes in here, okay, y'all? We're not doing that. But I know that it's uncomfortable, right? I know that this can bring up a lot of emotions. It can bring up embarrassment, shame, guilt, remorse. So many emotions come up when we talk about revealing parts of ourselves that we have kept secret. And the challenge is to overcome that in a way that is healthy for your relationship. And if you're not in a relationship, that's all right. Y'all are going to be ahead of the game. Because if you want to get in a relationship, we about to get this covered. You're not alone, though. Because I have felt this vulnerability as well. I'm not perfect. I've been a coach for a long time, and I learn from my clients. I learn all the time. And this started because years ago, before I even got married, when we were just dating, my boyfriend at the time, Chris, and I were in disagreement. We didn't know how to answer this one piece of the next step. Like, I was in love. You know how you're like, okay, everything's going all right, we're good. But I had a job in Phoenix, and we lived in Michigan. And he was 313 till I die. Like, he was like, I'm not going anywhere. You're crazy. And so we disagreed. And it wasn't until we decided to get reinforcements, which was where we had alignment, where we had commonality. We said, okay, we might not agree on this idea, but we agreed to get some outside help. And that was pivotal. Because what he learned is that I'm always right. We moved to Phoenix, y'all. So in one of those sessions, what happened was really transformative, and it really has shaped the rest of how I've operated with my husband as well as with those who have come into my office or into my Zoom room. The pastor in that counseling session said, bring your credit reports. And I was like, does he know how to fix this joker? Because I'm not sure I want to share all that information with you. But I was willing. I said, okay. So the next time we came to a session, we brought those credit reports, and I slid mine across the table just as Chris did. And that pastor took my credit report, gave it to Chris, took his credit report, and gave it to me. And I'm not kidding, y'all. I think I peed a little bit. Talk about vulnerable. I was exposed, man. I was like, this doesn't feel right. What are you doing? I'm not ready. And one of the things that I thought immediately was, when he looks at this, will he still want me? I thought, wow, this could be it. Because I had a delinquency on that credit report. I had student loans at the wazoo to me at that time. I had credit cards. I had a car payment. He would see all of my imperfections, all of my missteps with money. And I just wasn't ready for that. We had dated for 1.5 years, and I wasn't ready for that. And I looked at him, and I just was like, is he feeling the same way? And I think he was. And the good news is that he's a good guy. And he said, we're going to figure this out. And in one of our first assignments when we got married was we decided to add up all of our debts and figure out how to do this together. We were forced to get naked. We were forced to get vulnerable because it was an assignment that was given to us. And we paid off $90,000 in debt in the first 5 years of our marriage. And if we were to walk away today from working, I think we'd be all right, y'all. So today, I have helped so many hundreds of people get naked as well, because I believe that getting naked is the path to your financial freedom. I think that we have held back so much. We hide, we cower, we cover ourselves up, we make things look good, we put on the makeup, we put on this great face. And yet, we're hiding our true selves from the person that we love the most. So maybe we're doing this thing backwards. And for your dirty minds in there, this is not what you think. I want to give you some tips on why you might be doing some of this backwards. At the end, I'm going to have a QR code for a download, with just a few more tips on how to help make sure that you're in alignment with your partner. If this is applicable to you, hey, get it, and you'll be ahead of the game if you are not a part of a couple. But you could be doing this backwards, and I want to tell you why. Sometimes we get so excited with the calculations, with our budget, with calculating our FIDE, having all of these scenarios. And what happens is we've lost the partner, right? They're like, what? Maybe you start with your dreams, your goals, your passions, what you're excited about, what you want to see happen in the next year. Who do you want to be financially? That's a question I always ask clients. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? What do you want this to look like? Maybe you're doing it backwards. Maybe you're keeping secrets. So yesterday, one of our speakers asked you if you hid money. How many of you raised your hand? Because there was a whole lot of y'all in here. Yeah, we keep secrets. We keep stashes. We keep our past mistakes away. I had a client come into my office. Now, she wasn't a client at the time. She was a prospective client, and I was kind of interviewing her too, And she came in and she said, I've got $25,000 in credit card debt that I need help getting out of. I said, okay. And she mentioned that she was married, and I said, well, where is your partner? And she said, well, he doesn't know. I'm like, that's a problem. And so I coached her through the conversation to have with him to help make sure that this was healthy, that this would work for them, and that they can get through this. And she went back, because I wasn't going to take her as a client if we were having secrets. And so she went back and she talked to him and she said, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. And she found relief. Sometimes bearing it all and knowing that they're still going to love you is just what the doctor ordered. So for her, she needed to express and understand and uncover that secret before they could get on the path to becoming a team couple. And maybe you're making it too complicated. It's very possible that in all of your calculations, now hold on, how many nerds do we have in here? How many nerds? Come on, nerds, get all excited. You are in good company. But it's very possible that your boo is not a nerd. You could very well be making this way too complicated. My husband is a little bit of a nerd, but I give him headlines. He doesn't care about the whole budget and, all of that stuff. There are times when we go through all of that. But the truth is like, we don't have time to spend an 8-hour money dissertation on how we have spent the money and all of that. We get headlines, we have guidelines, we have, just keep it real simple. And there are ways to help you do that when you're a part of a couple. These are just a few tools. There's tons of tools, but some of these are specifically geared toward couples so that you can manage your money, track your expenses. And so maybe you have a way that will bring you into alignment, you will find commonality, and you'll be able to make sure that you have a way to move forward as a team. And like I said, there are lots of other ways to help you make sure that you're getting on the same page and on the same team with your partner. Recently, just a couple months ago, my husband and I started a podcast. Woohoo! We're excited about that. It's called For Better and Worth, and we believe the way that we teach really and what we're talking about on that podcast is that we believe that you don't have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth. And a lot of times people feel like they have to sacrifice. And it just doesn't have to be that way. We have to work on that language and understand the language that our partner has as well. And if we can do that, then we're setting ourselves up for success. If you talk about money on a regular and routine basis, more couples are happier in their relationships. 80%. So I had those terrible statistics in the beginning, but I love this one. If you weekly talk about your money, just 15 minutes, just take one topic, just take one question. I've got questions in the back of my book, right? And you can just take one and say, hey, honey, we're going to talk about this. Maybe you put on some mood music. Maybe you make it fun, have some wine or I don't know, whatever works for you. Maybe you do it naked, I don't know. But you'll be happier because you're routinely talking about and understanding your partner in a deeper and more meaningful way. So I just have one question for you before I leave. I've given you all of these different tips to help make sure that you know how to get into alignment, find commonality with your partner. And I hope that you take some of those to heart. So I just want to know, who's ready to get naked? Thank you.